Have you ever been told you're too nice or so calm, but inside you feel a quiet storm brewing? That storm has a name: hidden anger. It's one of the most misunderstood forces in our emotional lives. Unlike explosive rage, it doesn't shout. It whispers. It lives beneath the surface, masked by politeness, overthinking, or sometimes just complete silence. Many people carrying this hidden anger don't even know it's there, yet it shapes their decisions, their health, and their relationships every single day. This anger isn't loud. It's patient, and it is incredibly powerful. So what is hidden anger, really? It's any anger that's been pushed down, denied, or turned inward instead of being expressed. This usually starts when we're young, when showing anger felt unsafe, wrong, or just useless. Maybe you were punished for it, or maybe your feelings were simply ignored. So you learn to bury it. Over time, that buried anger doesn't just disappear. It transforms. It becomes chronic irritation, passive-aggressive behavior, or a strange emotional numbness. You might feel resentment without even knowing why, or you might be your own harshest critic. Hidden anger isn't the absence of anger. It's anger that was never given permission to exist. Most of this starts in childhood. As kids, we quickly learn which emotions are allowed. If anger was met with punishment, mockery, or just a cold shoulder, we learn to silence it. This is common for children with emotionally distant parents, or for those who were forced to behave and act mature too early. Kids who are praised for being compliant, not for being honest about their feelings, learn to push their anger deep down. They adapt by becoming quiet and agreeable, while the anger sinks into their psyche, waiting. When anger has nowhere to go, it turns inward. This is where the real damage begins. This inward-facing anger often disguises itself as shame, self-blame, perfectionism, or even depression. Your mind starts attacking itself because it was never allowed to challenge anyone else. People with hidden anger are often incredibly hard on themselves, holding themselves to impossible standards while letting others off the hook easily. It's an exhausting internal battle that no one else can see. One of the sneakiest things about hidden anger is how well it hides. People with suppressed anger are often the ones described as always so patient or never angry. But this calmness is often just emotional paralysis, not genuine peace. Your niceness becomes a suit of armor, not an expression of kindness. You stop setting boundaries, and resentment builds quietly. On the outside, you're pleasant and easygoing, but inside you're simmering. But that anger has to go somewhere. It doesn't just vanish, it leaks. It comes out in sarcastic comments, sudden emotional withdrawal, or procrastination that sabotages your own goals. It can even show up as physical symptoms like constant headaches, muscle tension, or fatigue. Your body starts to express what your mind refuses to acknowledge. Then sometimes it all erupts in a sudden outburst that shocks everyone, including you. This is usually followed by intense guilt, which just reinforces the whole cycle of suppressing it again. Think of your body as a storage unit for this unexpressed emotion. When anger is constantly suppressed, your nervous system stays on high alert. This chronic stress can lead to real physical problems, from digestive issues to sleep disturbances. At its very core, hidden anger isn't about hate, it's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as too much. We learn to believe that if we get angry, we'll lose love, or that our needs simply don't matter. Over time, this takes a huge psychological toll. It leads to emotional disconnection, a loss of your own identity, and a hard time feeling true joy. Life can start to feel heavy and gray, even when everything on the surface looks fine. Healing from this has to start with one thing: permission. Giving yourself permission to feel angry without judging yourself for it. Anger itself isn't the enemy. Unacknowledged anger is. Healthy healing involves learning to name the anger when you feel it, exploring where it came from, and practicing assertive communication. It's about setting boundaries and knowing it's okay to do so. Anger, when you finally listen to it, is just information. It's a messenger that points to your violated boundaries, your unmet needs, and your ignored pain. The goal isn't to become an angrier person, but a more honest one. When that quiet, wounded voice inside is finally heard, anger transforms from a poison into your personal power. Have you ever felt like there's a storm brewing just beneath the surface? That's often hidden anger. It doesn't just fade away with time, it waits. It waits in your body, in your nervous system, in your subconscious. Healing isn't about crushing your anger, but about learning to listen to it without fear. When you finally acknowledge your anger, it stops poisoning you from the inside and starts to restore your strength. The first step is simply giving your anger permission to exist. So many of us were taught that anger is bad, ugly, or even immoral. But in reality, anger is just a biological signal, not a flaw in your character. It shows up for a reason. A boundary was crossed, a need was ignored, or a truth was silenced. Denying your anger is like denying reality. Healing starts the moment you can say to yourself, I am angry and that's okay. A huge mental block for many people is the fear that feeling anger means acting violently. This belief keeps the anger buried deep inside. But let's be clear, anger is a feeling. Violence is a behavior. They are not the same thing. Learning this difference is incredibly freeing. You can feel intense anger without ever yelling, harming someone, or losing control. When you honor your anger internally, it rarely needs to explode externally. So, where do you feel this anger? Hidden anger often lives in the body, not just in your thoughts. It can show up as tight shoulders, a clenched jaw, pressure in your chest, or even chronic fatigue and restlessness. Instead of asking, why am I so angry? Try asking, where in my body do I feel this? When you locate anger physically, you give your nervous system a chance to start releasing it naturally without you having to force it. Anger is rarely just about what's happening right now. It often points back to old, unresolved wounds, times when your voice was silenced or your boundaries were trampled. Ask yourself, when did I first learn to hide my anger? Who was I afraid of disappointing? What was my anger trying to protect me from? This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding the survival patterns you developed that you might not need anymore. Once you understand it, you need a safe way to let it out. Releasing hidden anger is about healthy expression, not suppression. This doesn't mean you have to confront anyone. It's about being honest with yourself first. Try writing down your uncensored thoughts in a journal. Speak your feelings out loud when you're alone. Move your body, go for a walk, shake out your limbs, or do some stretching. Even simple breathing techniques can help release that pent-up energy. If it feels like too much, trauma-informed therapy can provide a safe space for this work. Hidden anger often grows where boundaries are weak or non-existent. Healing means learning to say no without feeling like you have to explain yourself. It's about saying, that doesn't work for me, or I need some time. You will probably feel guilty at first. That's normal. Guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're changing an old pattern. Remember, boundaries aren't punishments for others. They're acts of self-respect for yourself. Many people who struggle with hidden anger were praised for being the nice one or for being agreeable. Healing requires you to let go of that identity. Kindness without honesty is a form of self-betrayal. True kindness includes your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You are allowed to disappoint other people in order to stay loyal to yourself. The goal isn't to get rid of anger forever. It's about integrating it into who you are. When anger is integrated in a healthy way, it transforms. It becomes assertiveness instead of resentment. It becomes clarity instead of confusion. It gives you energy instead of leaving you exhausted. It builds self-trust instead of self-doubt. When you respect your anger, it becomes your guardian, not your enemy. Throughout this entire process, self-compassion is key. Hidden anger often lives alongside deep self-judgment. You need to have compassion for the part of you that learned to survive by being silent. You weren't weak for suppressing your anger. You were adapting to your environment. And now you have the power to choose a different way. If your anger is tied to deep trauma or abuse, please know that seeking professional support is a sign of wisdom, not failure. Therapies like somatic experiencing, EMDR, or internal family systems can help you process these feelings safely without having to painfully relive them. In the end, healing hidden anger isn't about becoming a louder person. It's about becoming a more real person. When you acknowledge your anger, it no longer controls you from the shadows. Anger is not the enemy here. Silence is. When you finally allow your anger to speak, your true self finally learns how to breathe again. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content on emotional healing. Take care of yourself.